Hey, listeners, ready to transform your sleep? Cozy Earth is all about lasting luxury and comfort. Their bamboo sheets have been called the world's softest sheets, cooling, moisture wicking, and unbelievably soft. And I can tell you they get better with every wash. And they have a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty.
But it doesn't stop there. They have bath, sleepwear, loungewears, and even skincare. Free shipping on orders of $50 or more.
Make sure you go to cozyearth.com, use our code INFOGO at checkout to save 21% off. You can find all of this in the show notes. Welcome to the podcast. I'm William.
And I'm Kat.
And that makes this Info on the Go.
Feeding your curiosity wherever you go.
So today we're going to be talking about Alaska's last great race. First of all, you picked this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I knew about it, but I didn't know about it.
Well, now you know about it.
I'm definitely going to know more about it after this for sure. So imagine yourself standing on a snow-covered street in downtown Anchorage, Alaska. It's early March, and the air is so cold that every breath forms a cloud that quickly disappears into the morning sky. Right now, where we're recording, it feels like it's 108 degrees, so this sounds refreshing.
It does, doesn't it?
The temperature is well below freezing, and the only sounds at first are the crunch of snow beneath thousands of boots and the eager chatter of spectators bundled against the cold. Then another sound rises above the crowd, a chorus of barking unlike anything you've ever heard. Hundreds of sled dogs leap, howl, and strain against the harnesses, their excitement almost contagious. They know exactly what's about to happen, and they can't wait to get moving.
The crowd begins to count down in unison. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A musher releases the sled's brake, and suddenly 16 powerful dogs surge forward as one. Snow sprays into the air as the sled rockets down the street, disappearing around the corner to the cheers of thousands. And within minutes, the noise of the city fades behind them, replaced by the vast silence of the Alaskan wilderness.
What lies ahead is no ordinary race. Over the next 1,000 miles, these teams will cross frozen rivers that, well, can crack beneath their runners, climb rugged mountain passes carved by wind and ice, battle blizzards that can, well, erase the trail in minutes, and travel across lonely stretches of sea ice where the Arctic wind cuts through every layer of clothing. Don't sound so great right now. Mushers will survive on only a few hours of sleep each day, relying on instinct, experience, and perhaps most importantly, the remarkable dogs leading the way. In many situations, those dogs won't just be pulling the sled, they'll be making decisions that could mean the difference between reaching the next checkpoint safely or becoming lost in one of the harshest environments on Earth.
The Iditarod is far more than a race, though. It's a living connection to Alaska's past, preserving trails that once served as lifelines for remote communities long before highways and airplanes connected the state. It's a test of endurance that pushes both humans and dogs to their limits in a story of courage, determination, teamwork, and trust. A partnership between people and animals unlike any other sport. And today we're following that trail into the heart of Alaska to uncover the history, the legends, the triumphs, and the challenges behind one of the world's greatest endurance events ever, the legendary Iditarod.
To understand the Iditarod, we first have to imagine an Alaska that looked nothing like it does today. Forget highways, traffic lights, and gas stations. There were no paved roads stretching across the wilderness and very few permanent routes connecting communities. So, for thousands of years, Alaska was a land where nature, no people, decided how you traveled. In the short summer months, rivers became the state's highways. Families traded, and hunters paddled canoes, and skin boats through winding waterways that connected villages separated by hundreds of miles. But when winter arrived, it changed everything.
As temperatures plunged, those same rivers froze solid. Marshes hardened, lakes became sheets of ice, and snow blanketed the landscape. So, to most people, it might seem as though travel would become impossible, right? Well, in reality, winter often made travel easier. The frozen landscape created a network of natural highways stretching across the wilderness. The challenge wasn't finding a road, it was finding the best way to move across one of the coldest places on Earth.
So a wagon with wooden wheels, well, it would quickly become stuck in deep snow. Even today, driving through several feet of snow without specialized equipment is nearly impossible. Horses, while they're powerful, struggled in Alaska's brutal winters. They required large amounts of hay that was, well, it was difficult to transport. And, they just weren't really designed for the icy terrain. Early travelers, they needed something tougher, something that could thrive in freezing temperatures instead of merely surviving them.
The answer had been living alongside Alaska's indigenous peoples for thousands of years. Long before the first European settlers arrived, Alaska was home to many native cultures, including the Inuit, Yupik, Inupiat, Athabascan, and others, each developing unique ways of living in one of the world's harshest environments. While every culture had its own traditions, many relied on dogs to help transport people and supplies across vast snowy landscapes. These weren't simply pets waiting at home by the fire. They were trusted partners, essential workers, hunting companions, and in many cases, the difference between life and death.
So imagine setting out on a hunting trip that might last several days and temperatures dropping to 40 or 50 degrees below zero. Everything you needed, food, clothing, tools, and shelter, well, it had to come with you. A well-trained dog team could pull heavy loads across frozen rivers and deep snow far more effectively than a person could alone. They helped families move camps, delivered supplies between villages, and allowed hunters to travel farther than they could otherwise have done without any dogs.
Now, these dogs earned their place not only through strength but through remarkable intelligence. Mushers quickly learned that the dogs often noticed dangers before human
Yeah,
dids.
I was going to say, hey, but you caught it.
I was like, wait a second.
That's not human dids.
A lead dog might suddenly refuse to continue down what appeared to be a perfectly safe trail. An inexperienced musher might think the dog was simply being stubborn. An experienced musher knew better. Beneath that smooth layer of snow could be dangerously thin ice hiding fast moving water below. Countless stories have been passed down of lead dogs stopping just in time, preventing an entire team from plunging into freezing rivers. And in Alaska, trusting your dogs wasn't just good teamwork, it was good survival.
The dogs themselves were perfectly suited for the job. Their thick double coats, well, it trapped warm air close to their bodies, protecting them from temperatures that would be, well, deadly to, for any other animals. Broad, tough paws acted like, well, natural snowshoes, spreading their weight over soft snow while gripping slippery ice. They possessed incredible stamina, capable of traveling dozens of miles day after day while pulling heavy sleds. And perhaps most impressive was their teamwork. A sled dog team, well, it does not succeed because one extraordinary dog. It succeeds because every dog has a role and understands how they work together. The lead dogs navigate and respond to commands. The swing dogs help guide the team through turns, and the team dogs, they provide steady pulling power, and the wheel dogs nearest to the sled, well, they use their strength to get heavy loads moving.
This incredible partnership between humans and dogs evolved over thousands of years, long before anyone imagined racing across Alaska for trophies or prize money. It was never about competition. It was about survival, family, community, and adapting to one of the most unforgiving environments on the planet. And here's a fascinating fact. Modern research and countless mushers agree that sled dogs often detect dangerous ice before humans can. Whether it's hearing subtle cracks, sensing vibrations beneath the snow, or simply relying on instincts honed over generations, experienced mushers know one important rule. If your lead dog refuses to move forward, there's probably a very good reason. In the Alaskan wilderness, listening to your dogs has saved countless lives.
Gold, as it has throughout history, changes everything because everything in Alaska begins to shift the moment the word spread. Gold was found. At first, it was just rumors, whispers from prospectors deep in the wilderness who, stumbled across glittery flakes in the creek beds and riverbanks. But in a place like Alaska, rumors travel fast, and hope travels even faster. Soon those whispers turn into headlines, and then those headlines turn into a rush. Not a slow migration, but a wave of people pouring into the territory, all chasing the same dream, the possibility of striking it rich in a land most of them barely really understood. Yeah, and I guess those long nights and then those
Oh,
days where the sun doesn't set.
I don't know. I don't know. I want to at least visit Alaska, of course, during the summer months. I don't know if I could do the winter months, but I would love to go see it.
I I want to go in the winter. Yeah,
When it's dark all the
yeah,
time.
yeah. I think that would be the best time to go.
Well, I think it would be a good time to go just to see the aurora borealis, but that's just I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you we because I guess you can't see that during the summer because of the sun.
If anybody knows, let us know.
Please. So boom towns appear almost overnight. What was empty wilderness in the spring can become a crowded settlement by winter. Tents, wooden shacks, supply stores, and saloons popping up everywhere gold is rumored to be found. Entire communities form in weeks, not years, built on optimism, desperation, and the harsh math of survival in the North. Thousands of newcomers arrive, many unprepared for what Alaska actually is. They bring ambition, but often not the knowledge or tools needed to survive in winters.
And that's where the real problem starts. Gold might bring people to Alaska, but it doesn't connect them. So the territory is still enormous, isolated, and brutally difficult to navigate. There are no roads linking these scattered mining camps. Rivers freeze, mountains block paths. And you know what? The snow, it just buries everything. So if you needed supplies, mail, medicine, or equipment, getting it to you wasn't just difficult, it was a matter of life and death.
So people turned to the only reliable system that existed, the trails carved by dog teams. This is where the early version of the Iditarod Trail begins to take shape, not as a race, but as a lifeline. It becomes a working network connecting isolated mining towns and remote settlements across hundreds of miles of frozen wilderness. Sled dogs carry mail when no one else can. They haul freight when wagons can't move. They transport medical supplies that might mean the difference between recovery and tragedy. And in a world without reliable roads or air travel, dog teams become the most dependable form of transportation Alaska has ever known.
But this road is unlike anything most people can imagine today. Traveling means enduring temperatures that can plunge below minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold so intense it changes how metal behaves and how breath freezes instantly in the air. Whiteout conditions, well, they can erase the horizon completely, leaving mushers and dogs moving through a world where the sky and the ground, it just looks like it becomes one. Navigation becomes instinct more than sight. The trail itself is never guaranteed. And what was a safe path yesterday, well, it might be buried under that drifting snow today.
And yet, life continues along this frozen highway. Small cabins become critical stopping points, places to rest, warm up, and gather strength before pushing back into the endless white. Frozen rivers turn into the safest travel routes, stretching for miles like natural roads carved by winter itself. And entire journeys are planned around these icy corridors because, in many cases, they are the only viable way forward.
It's hard to fully understand just how different time and distance feel in this environment. You know, when we think of terms of hours, minutes, and GPS directions, but on the early Iditarod Trail, Those concepts didn't apply in the same way. Weather could halt progress completely. Ice conditions could force long detours. A single storm could trap travelers for days. And that's what makes this image so powerful.
A trip that might take a few hours by airplane today once took weeks. Not because people were slow, but because the land itself demanded patience, endurance, and respect. Every mile had to be earned. Every destination had to be fought for against cold, wind, and isolation. In the gold rush era, Alaska wasn't just a place of opportunity, it was a place that tested everything. And the sled dogs and mushers who carved the earliest versions of the Iditarod Trail were the ones who proved it could be crossed at all.
Hmm. In the winter of 1925, the quiet town of Nome, Alaska, well, it suddenly found itself in the grip of something more dangerous than the cold. A diphtheria outbreak had begun spreading through the community. It's a disease that can move quickly and violently, especially among children. And in a remote place like Nome, the situation, well, it became terrifying overnight. Doctors realized the town's limited supply of antitoxin, and it was no longer enough. Without more medicine, lives would be lost, and they needed the medicine fast.
The problem wasn't just what was happening in Nome, it was where Nome was. The nearest large supply of serum was hundreds of miles away, deep in the Alaskan interior, and in most places, that distance would be inconvenient. In Alaska, in the middle of winter, it was near impossible to get there.
At first, officials considered using airplanes to deliver the medicine. It sounded like a modern solution for a modern problem. But the reality of 1925 aviation in Alaska, well, it was very different from what we think of today. Aircraft back then, it was fragile. Navigation systems were primitive, and weather forecasting was limited at best. In the dead of winter, with brutal winds, near total darkness, and temperatures dropping far below zero, flying, it was just simply too dangerous. Engines could fail, pilots could lose visibility in seconds. One mistake would mean losing not just the medicine, but the pilot and the plane as well.
So the plan changed. If the skies couldn't be trusted, the ground would have to carry the answer. What followed became one of the most extraordinary relay efforts in history. Teams of sled dogs and mushers were organized across nearly 700 miles of frozen wilderness. The serum would not be carried by a single team, but passed hand to hand, sled to sled, in a relay stretching across Alaska's harshest terrain.
20 mushers took part. More than 100 dogs ran in rotation. Each team pushed forward through wind, ice, and exhaustion, handing off the precious cargo like a living chain connecting the interior of Alaska to the desperate town of Nome on the coast. At the center of the story, at least in the way history remembers it, stands a dog named Balto.
Balto was part of the final team that brought the serum to Nome.
You
I'm
okay
a
over there?
sucker. I'm a sucker, okay?
Well, I mean, I get choked up sometimes when we're doing stuff.
When that last stretch was completed, he became a national symbol almost overnight. Newspapers across the country told the story of the brave sled dog who helped save a town. Statues were erected in his honor, his name became part of American folklore. But as with many famous stories, the truth is far more complex.
Yeah, because there was another dog, one whose role in the relay was longer, harder, and arguably more critical than any other, and his name was Togo. And Togo led his team across some of the most dangerous situations of the entire route, covering far more distance than many of the other mushers involved. He navigated shifting ice, open water, and brutal storms, often guiding his team through conditions that would have turned back most others. Many historians and mushers today argue that Togo was the true hero of the Serum Run, the dog whose endurance and leadership, well, he made the final delivery possible. So why does the world remember Balto instead?
Well, the answer has less to do with survival and more to do with storytelling. Balto was the final leg of the journey. the moment when the serum physically entered Nome, and that made him the perfect symbol for newspapers, headlines, and eventually Hollywood. Sometimes you just get famous because you were there, but hey. His story was simple, clean, and easy to celebrate. Togo's story, while more impressive in terms of distance and difficulty, was longer, more complex, and harder to reduce into a single defining moment. So, over time, Hollywood and popular culture amplified Balto's fame while Togo's contribution faded into the background. Only in recent decades has Togo begun to receive the recognition many believe he has always deserved.
But both dogs are now part of the same lasting legacy. The Serum Run is remembered through statues, books, films, and documentaries. It does stand as one of the most dramatic examples of human and animal cooperation in extreme conditions. But perhaps most importantly, it directly inspired the creation of the modern Iditarod, turning a life-saving relay into an annual endurance race that still follows parts of the same historic trail. So, what began as a desperate mission to save a town, well, it became something much larger, a story about courage, teamwork, and the bond between mushers and their dogs, racing for, well, not fame, but for survival.
After the heroism of the Serum Run and the golden age of sled dogs in Alaska, something begins to change, and quickly. The same forces that once made the Iditarod Trail essential are now starting to make it unnecessary. Modern technology arrives in waves. First come snowmobiles, loud and powerful machines that can cross snow covered terrain in a fraction of the time it takes a dog team. Suddenly, what once required careful planning, trained dogs, and days of travel can be done in hours. For many people living in remote areas, it feels like a miracle. Supplies arrive faster, travel becomes easier, the world feels, well, a little smaller.
Then came the bush planes. Unlike earlier experimental aircraft, these are designed to land on frozen lakes, gravel bars, and short, rough airstrips that can be carved out into the wilderness. They can fly over mountains instead of going through them. They can carry people, medicine, and mail across hundreds of miles on a single trip. So, what once took weeks on a sled, it can be done in hours by the sky.
And then, slowly but steadily, highways begin to spread. Roads carve into the landscape, connecting towns that were once isolated for months at a time. Trucks replace freight sleds, mail routes shift to vehicles, supply chains modernize. Alaska, once defined by its isolation, begins to feel increasingly connected to the rest of the world.
With each new development, the old trail system becomes less important. Not suddenly, but steadily, almost quietly, right? Mining towns that once depended on sled dog teams, they began to fade in the background. And when the gold runs out or becomes harder to extract, people they leave. Some towns are abandoned entirely, left behind like snapshots of another era. Buildings sit empty in the snow. Wooden structures, they creaked under years of wind and cold. And roofs, they collapse under heavy drifts. What was once a bustling checkpoint or supply stop becomes nothing more than a memory. That's sad.
Yeah, kind of what the gold rush does, though.
Yeah. No gold. We're going to Dahlonega, Georgia. We should do a episode on the gold rush of Dahlonega, Georgia.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a few old mining towns in Nevada, too.
Okay. Gold rush.
The Iditarod Trail itself begins to disappear in places. Without regular use, snow covers it completely. Markers are lost, routes shift, and what was once a well known path across the wilderness becomes difficult to trace, even for experienced outdoorsmen. Historic cabins that once offered warmth and shelter along the way are left unattended, slowly decaying as the years pass. Some collapse under the weight of snow, others are reclaimed by the landscape around them, swallowed by forest and frost. So, for a time, it truly seems like the story might be ending.
The world is changing, right? Technology is advancing, and the question quietly begins to emerge. Would the trail be lost forever? Would the knowledge of how to travel across the frozen wilderness with dogs simply fade into history, replaced entirely by machines and modern transportation.
For a while, it looks possible, even likely. The sled dog era that once defined survival in Alaska seems to be slipping away, becoming something people only read about in old accounts and faded photographs.
But Alaska has a way of holding on to its history, even when the world tries to move on.
And just when it seems like the trail might disappear completely, something unexpected begins to happen. A quiet movement led by people who refuse to let it be forgotten.
You know what? And I say before we get into saving history, we get a ice cold Coke because it is like 108 degrees here.
I will opt for a Pepsi, but I appreciate the offer. Thank you.
We should probably be drinking water though. Hydrate, hydrate, you know?
It's just anything other than caffeine is hydrating, right?
But I need caffeine. We'll be right. We're gonna work this out on the break. We'll be right back.
So now that we're back,
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
William, I know how you love matcha tea with coconut milk.
Yeah, it's clean energy without a crash.
Then you'll love Mantra Matcha. They offer super premium ceremonial matcha and 6 superfood infused flavors made from the finest, youngest tea leaves for a naturally sweet, ultra smooth taste.
With each flavor, it's infused with powerful superfoods like cacao, ginger, and goji berries. And they also have those classic favorites like banana cacao, strawberry lemon, cinnamon goji berry, plus superfood berry, ginger beet, and rosehip dragon fruit. It's organic, non-GMO, gluten-free with 0 grams of sugar. You can enjoy it like me, or maybe hot or in a smoothie like Cat. Every purchase helps provide meals to kids through No Kid Hungry.
It's at mantramatcha.com. Get 15% off using our code INFOGO at checkout. Both links are in the show notes.
Hey, everybody, we want to tell you about strong coffee. You know, every morning it starts with a choice. You can settle for just coffee, or you can rise up with strong coffee. And it's the world's strongest cup of joe. You know, strong isn't just a drink, it's a movement. It stands for striving to reach our natural greatness.
It's born from one simple need to be better. They rebuilt coffee from the ground up, infusing organic coffee with collagen, protein, nootropics, and functional ingredients that fuel your body and sharpen your mind. No crash, no compromises, just clean energy, focus, and flavor that fires you up.
Yeah, so whether you're chasing kids, chasing goals, or chasing greatness, you know, don't just do it with coffee, do it with strong coffee. And our listeners can save 20% off just by using our code INFOGO at checkout. Hey, if you're looking for your favorite band or sports team or TV show, check out Old Glory. They've been in operation since 1969 and they have over 300,000 items. They have from the Beatles all the way to Metallica, NFL, NBA. It really doesn't matter what you're looking for. They have tees, hoodies, hats, gifts, everything a true fan could ever want. And it's family owned and operated. They have fast shipping, free standard delivery on every order. And you know what? Our listeners get a 15% off at checkout using our code INFOGO. You can find the link in the show notes.
Just when the old trail seemed destined to fade into memory, a man named Joe Reddington Sr. saw something different. Where others saw abandoned routes and collapsing cabins.
You mean cabins, right?
Yes, I mean cabins.
Okay.
Where others saw abandoned routes and collapsing cabins, he saw possibility. Reddington wasn't just a musher. He was a dreamer, an adventurer, and above all, a dog lover who believed that Alaska's sled dog heritage was worth saving.
And to him, the trail wasn't just a relic of the past, it was a living piece of history that still had a future. So he began to wonder, what if the old Iditarod Trail could, well, be brought back to life? Not as a transportation route, not as a survival necessity, but as something new, something that honored the past while challenging the present. And then came the idea that would sound almost impossible at the time, a race, a long distance sled dog race across Alaska, following much of the historic trail as they possibly could.
When he first shared the idea, people didn't exactly rush to support it. In fact, many laughed. The trail was overgrown in places, forgotten in others, and barely mapped in sections. Why would anyone voluntarily choose to travel hundreds of miles across frozen wilderness when snowmobiles and planes could do it faster and safer? Sponsors were skeptical. I'm sure they were like, insurance?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to sponsor you going to go get lost. Like, I don't know.
And even experienced mushers questioned whether it could be done at all. Could anyone actually finish a journey like that under race conditions? Reddington didn't back down.
He believed that if people could be brought back to the trail, if they could experience just a fraction of what the earlier mushers had endured, then history wouldn't be lost. It would be revived. And in 1973, that vision became reality.
Yay. Anyway, the first official Iditarod race set out across Alaska with a small group of mushers. There was no polished systems in place, no large corporate sponsorships, and nothing like modern infrastructure like the race has today. Equipment was simple and often improvised. Sleds were lighter, but not nearly as advanced as the ones used today. Communication was limited, weather forecasting was unreliable, probably at best.
Mm.
And every team knew they were entering something that felt closer to an expedition than a sporting event.
So weather forecasting back then was you walk outside, it's cold. It's cold today. And if it's snowing, it's snowing.
Right.
I'm sorry, that was a bad joke. But but what they lacked in technology, they made up for in determination. As the race began, something remarkable happened. The same trail that had nearly vanished from, it began to feel alive again. Mushers pushed forward through snow and wind, retracing paths that had once carried mail, medicine, and survival supplies across the state. Communities along the route, many of which had not seen dog teams in years, well, you could find them all taking part of something historic again. And against many expectations, it worked.
As it should.
True.
Mushers finished the race. Dogs proved once again that they could endure some of the harshest conditions on Earth. The trail held together, not perfectly, not easily, but enough. Enough to show that the idea wasn't just symbolic, it was real. So, what began as a bold experiment quickly grew into something far larger than Reddington had ever imagined. The Iditarod became an annual tradition, drawing mushers from across Alaska and eventually from around the world. Year after year, the race returned to the snow, following the old paths, honoring the old stories, and proving that the bond between mushers and their dogs was still as strong as ever. The trail had not been lost, it had been reborn.
How does the race really work? From the outside, the Iditarod can look simple. A team of dogs, a sled, a frozen trail, and a starting line that leads straight into the Alaskan wilderness. But in reality, what happens on race day is the result of months, sometimes years, of preparing, planning, and careful decision making long before anyone ever hears the word go.
For most mushers, the race begins long before March. Training starts in the off season when teams are built, tested, and refined. Dogs are selected not just for strength, but for personality, teamwork, and trust. Every position in the team matters, and each dog has a specific role.
At the front are the lead dogs. These are the decision makers of the team. They respond to commands, read the trail, and often determine the pace and direction. A great a great lead dog doesn't follow instructions. They interpret them in real time while navigating snow, wind, and shifting terrain.
Behind them are the swing dogs, positioned right behind the leaders. Their job is subtle but crucial. They help guide the sled through turns, balance the team's movement, and keep everything flowing smoothly when the trail becomes tight or unpredictable.
And in the middle are the team dogs, the steady engine of the group. These dogs provide the consistent pulling power that keeps everything moving forward over long distances. They may not get the spotlight, but without them, the race just simply won't happen.
Closest to the sled are the wheel dogs, the strongest members of the team. They handle the heavy load of starting the sled, especially when it's packed with gear, food, and supplies. And every time the musher hits a hill, deep snow, or a tough pull, the wheel dogs are doing some of the hardest work.
But even the best dog team in the world is only as effective as the equipment and planning behind it.
The sled itself is lightweight but engineered for durability, designed to glide over snow while carrying everything needed to survive in the wilderness. Every ounce matters. Mushers carefully pack mandatory survival gear, extra food, cold weather clothing, repair tools, and emergency supplies. Nothing is carried without purpose, because everything adds weight that the dogs must pull for hundreds of miles.
Food, because, it's the most crucial element of the entire race. Dogs burn thousands of calories each day, and keeping them fueled, that is a consistent balancing act. High fat, high energy meals are prepared at checkpoints and along the trail. Mushers, they're constantly checking on their teams, watching for signs of fatigue or dehydration.
Even something as simple as a dog Even something as simple as dog booties become essential. These small protective coverings help prevent injuries from ice, snow crust, and freezing temperatures. They're changed frequently, sometimes dozens of times during the race, because healthy paws are the difference between continuing and dropping out.
Veterinary supplies are also close at hand. Every checkpoint includes medical teams who examine the dogs, checking for injuries, fatigue, or signs of stress. So the Iditarod, it has strict rules about animal care, and teams are monitored closely to ensure the dogs remain healthy throughout the race, or throughout the journey of the race, I guess.
The race itself is structured around checkpoints, remote locations scattered along the trail where mushers can rest, resupply, and recover. These stops are more than just pit stops, they're lifelines. Food drops are staged ahead of time, waiting for teams as they arrive. Dogs are fed, checked, and rested. Mushers may sleep for a few hours before pushing back into the wilderness. But rest is limited. Time is always moving forward, and so is the competition.
Race rules, well, they play a major role in shaping strategy. Mushers must balance speed with care. Push too hard, and you risk exhausting your dogs. Go too slow, and you lose valuable time. Penalties, well, they can be issued for rule violations, especially those involving dog care and mandatory rest requirements. Every decision becomes a calculation: when to push, when to stop, when to trust your team to carry through.
And at its core, the Iditarod is not just about endurance, it's about strategy under extreme conditions. Weather, terrain, and fatigue all become part of the game, but so does judgment. Knowing your dogs, understanding the trail, and adapting to conditions in real time is what separates finishing from failing.
And that's why mushers often describe it in a very unique way. The musher is really just the coach. The dogs, they're the athletes. It's a simple comparison, but it does capture the truth perfectly. The dogs do the running, the musher makes the decision. Together, they form a team that has a function with complete trust across one of the most unforgiving environments on earth.
At the heart of the Iditarod, beyond the miles of frozen wilderness and the human endurance stories, are the real athletes of the race, the dogs. Most of them are Alaskan Huskies, but that name can be a little misleading. They aren't formally recognized purebred in the way many people think of dogs. Instead, they're something far more interesting: a carefully developed working type, shaped over generations for one purpose: endurance in the harshest cold on Earth. Speed matters, but not nearly as much as resilience, intelligence, and the ability to keep going when conditions turn brutal.
And these dogs are built for distance. On a good day, a strong team can run over 100 miles, even through snow, wind, and sub zero temperatures. That to me is incredible.
Mhm.
Their bodies are increasingly efficient at converting fat into energy, which allows them to keep moving long after most animals would just simply have to stop. Their paws are tough and well padded, almost like natural snow boots, designed to grip ice and withstand that constant contact with frozen ground. And their thick double coats, well, they trap heat so effectively that they can rest comfortably curled up in the snow, even when temperatures plunge far below what most animals could survive. My neighbor has an Alaskan Husky.
Hmm.
Well, all right. My neighbor had an Alaskan Husky. He, so well, I live in a military town, so people come and go. He was from Alaska, and this dog was beautiful. Had the purest blue eyes that you had ever seen. I mean, just
I had a husky mix there for a while. He had one blue eye and one brown eye. He was the best boy, the bestest of boys. But what really sets them apart isn't just their physical design, it's their minds. Every dog on a sled team has a role, and those roles matter just as much as strength or speed. Some dogs are natural leaders. They stay calm under pressure, listen to commands, and help guide the entire team through whiteouts and unfamiliar trails. And others are built for power and consistency, pulling steadily for hours without losing focus. And then there are the dogs with personality. Sometimes funny, sometimes stubborn, and sometimes unpredictable in the best possible way.
mushers often talk about how every dog has its own character. Some are comedians, consistently turning their heads, making eye contact, or trying to interact with the musher at the worst possible moments, like right before a serious climb. Some are fearless leaders who, well, they seem to understand the trail better than anyone else on the team. And some are cautious thinkers, the ones who hesitate at questionable ice or unfamiliar terrain, sometimes refusing to move forward until they are absolutely sure it's safe. In more than a few cases, though, that hesitation, it saved the entire team from disaster.
Life on the trail, however, is demanding even for these incredible animals. A sled dog in the Iditarod burns thousands of calories every single day. Feeding them isn't as simple as a meal in the morning and dinner at night. It's a constant process of refueling a machine that never fully shuts down. Mushers carefully prepare high fat, high energy diets designed to keep the dog's stamina high and their bodies warm. Every stop becomes a chance to check hydration, energy levels, and overall condition.
And then there's the physical maintenance. Dogs, the dog booties, those small protective coverings on their paws, well, they become essential equipment. They help prevent cuts from ice, abrasions from rough snow, and frostbite in extreme conditions. But they don't last forever. Mushers, they have to stop and change them out consistently, sometimes dozens of times throughout the race, making sure every dog is able to keep running without injury or slowing the team down.
Veterinary care is always part of the journey. At checkpoints along the trail, teams of veterinarians examine the dogs carefully, looking for signs of strain, dehydration, or injury. So
Right.
that's why the Iditarod has strict rules for veterinary care for the dogs.
Surviving the wilderness. On the Iditarod Trail, there are no guarantees, no matter how well prepared a team is. Because the wilderness of Alaska, well, it don't play by rules. And it doesn't bend for anybody. So the weather alone can feel like an opponent in the race.
Blizzards can roll in without warning, turning a clear trail into a wall of white in minutes. Visibility drops so fast that even the lead dogs may struggle to see more than a few feet ahead. High winds cut across open tundra and mountain passes, biting through layers of clothing and driving snow sideways through the air. And then there are the whiteouts, those eerie, disorienting moments when the sky and ground blend together completely, erasing all sense of direction. And in those conditions, mushers rely less on sight and more on instinct, memory, and the steady pull of their dog teams.
But the ground beneath the sled, well, it can be just as dangerous as the sky above it. Rivers that look frozen and solid can hide unexpected dangers. Overflow ice, water pushed up through cracks in the ice layer. Well, they can create slushy, unstable surfaces that trap sled runners and soak the dog's paws in freezing water. In some cases, a trail that looks perfectly safe is actually a thin crust covering fast moving water underneath. One wrong step, well, that can mean breaking through, forcing a quick rescue in sub-zero temperatures where seconds matter.
Even the land itself becomes a challenge. The Iditarod crosses mountain ranges that demand steep climbs and careful descent. Going uphill means every dog is working at full strength, pulling against gravity in deep snow. Coming down is no easier. Sleds can pick up speed quickly, turning descents into a test of balance, control, and nerve. A single misjudgment on a slope can send a team off course or even cause serious injury.
And while Alaska is vast and often quiet, it's not empty. Wildlife is part of the landscape too. You have moose. I've heard about how dangerous mooses can be. Is it mooses or mises? That's a joke. I'm just, but I've heard about how they can be dangerous and unexpectedly dangerous. Despite their size, they're aggressive, especially when startled or defending territory. And they don't always move away from the trail. And then you have wolves. They're occasionally seen in the distance, usually more curious than threatening, but still a reminder that this is a shared wilderness. And then you have bears, which is less common during the race season, but not impossible. It's just another unpredictable element in an already unpredictable environment.
Through all of this, the mushers keep moving. But perhaps the most difficult challenge isn't external at all, it's exhaustion. Sleep becomes something measured in short breaks rather than long rest. Many mushers only manage a few hours of sleep each day, often in bursts at checkpoints or even briefly on the sled itself while the team continues moving. The constant rhythm of running, stopping, feeding, checking equipment, and navigating terrain creates a mental and physical strain that builds over time. Decision making becomes harder. Time feels distorted. Even simple tasks require focus. And yet, the race continues.
But every musher knows that stopping for too long can mean losing ground that is almost impossible to regain. So they push forward through storms, across rivers, or over mountains and deeper into the frozen silence of Alaska. Out there, survival and competition are still the same thing, and every mile is earned the hard way.
So, if you talk to anyone who has spent enough time around the Iditarod, they'll tell you the same thing. No two races are ever alike. The trail changes, the weather changes, and the stories change every single year. But what stays the same is the sheer unpredictability of what can happen out there.
Some of the most memorable moments in the Iditarod history, well, they come from comebacks that no one ever saw coming. Teams that fall far behind early in the race, sometimes due to weather delays or unexpected setbacks, they suddenly find their rhythm deep in the wilderness. Mushers who were written off in the early checkpoints, well, they managed to close the gap mile by mile, proving that in a race this long, early standings rarely tell the full story. A single storm, a well timed rest, or a strong stretch of trail, well, it can completely reshape the leaderboard.
Then there are the rookie winners, the first time mushers who arrive with determination but no expectation of victory, only to shock everyone by mastering the trail faster than anyone predicted. The Iditarod has a way of humbling experience and rewarding intuition. Sometimes it's not the most decorated musher who wins, but the one who adapts best in the wilderness in real time.
And of course, not all heroes in this race are human. Time and time again, dogs have, well, they've stepped into moments that become legendary among mushers. These are the stories of lead dogs refusing to continue down what looked like a safe trail, only for mushers to later discover, well, it was overflow ice or dangerous terrain. Other times, dogs have made mushers aware of changing conditions or help pull them through situations where human judgment alone might have gone wrong. In a place where survival depends on awareness, those instincts mean everything.
But not every story on the trail is serious. There are plenty of lighter moments too, ones that remind people that even in extreme conditions, dogs will still be dogs. Teams occasionally raid food supplies when no one is looking, stealing snacks or energy packed treats right out of sled bags. Mushers sometimes wake up after brief trail naps to find themselves in unexpected positions. Sleds half buried in snow or dogs curled up in ways that make it look like the entire team simply decided to stop and rest together. And every now and then, a team will flat out refuse to leave a checkpoint, as if collectively deciding that the warmth and food are simply too good to abandon just yet.
Modern teams, they have better equipment, training, and nutrition. They can move across sections of the trail at a pace earlier mushers would hardly have, been able to do, or While the spirit of the race remains the same, improvements in sled design, dog care, route knowledge, they have all allowed today's teams to achieve consistency and efficiency that past generations could only have dreamed of. Still, even with all that progress, the Iditarod remains less about pure speed and more about endurance, strategy, and survival over nearly 1,000 miles of unpredictable wilderness.
So, today, the Iditarod exists at the intersection of tradition and modern debate. It's still one of the most demanding endurance events in the world, but it is also one of the most discussed, especially when it comes to how it treats the animals at its center. Animal welfare is a major part of that conversation. Over the years, the race has introduced stricter rules, expanded veterinary oversight, and increased monitoring of sled dog health. Every team is required to pass regular check ins, and dogs showing signs of injury or exhaustion are removed from the race. Mushers are held accountable for the care of their teams, and penalties exist to enforce those standards. Still, different viewpoints remain. Supporters see the Iditarod as a model of responsible animal partnership in extreme sport, while critics raise ongoing concerns about the physical demands placed on the dogs. Both perspectives continue to shape how the race evolves.
At the same time, the environment itself is changing. Climate change is having a noticeable impact on Alaska's winter conditions. Warmer temperatures in some years mean less consistent snow, thinner ice, and more unpredictable trail conditions. Some traditional routes they've had to be adjusted or rerouted altogether. What was once a reliable frozen landscape is now at times less stable than it used to be, forcing organizers and mushers to adapt.
Technology has also reshaped the modern race in subtle but important ways. GPS tracking allows teams to be followed in real time. Satellite phones provide communication in areas that once had none, and clothing and gear are far more advanced, helping both mushers and dogs withstand extreme conditions more safely than in the past. These tools can make the race safer and more connected, but they don't remove the core challenge of the trail.
Because even with all these changes, many things about the Iditarod remain exactly the same. The cold still bites, the wind still howls, the wilderness is still vast, quiet, and unforgiving. And at its core, the race is still about the same thing it's always been about: partnership between human and dog, moving together through one of the most extreme environments on Earth.
The tools may change, the trail may shift, but the spirit of the Iditarod continues to run forward 1 mile at a time.
I enjoyed this. It was a good pick. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I knew about the Iditarod. I just didn't know that's what it was called. I knew the story about the serum in Nome, Alaska, and
Right.
but I didn't know that they brought this race back from that. I thought this one was fun, and it was a learning experience too, because I never really knew so much went into the care of the animals.
I had hoped that it went into the care of the animals since they're like the pack horses,
The star of the show.
the star of the show, if you will.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
Alaska does their own thing anyway, right?
oh, for sure. For sure. But they kind of had to. I mean, their landscape up there is like we've talked about ever changing.
So many people coming together to save a town from, I guess, without the antitoxin, the serum, I guess you can call it. That's amazing too, because we're talking about, a time when we talked about how frozen rivers and really depending on those dogs to go from one place to the next, like that, that was amazing within itself. And kudos to the people that still participate and try to keep it alive.
Yes. Yes. I admire you greatly.
Yep.
If you would like to support this podcast, tell a friend and help get the word out.
If you would like to support the show, you can do so at Patreon or take advantage of our sponsors. Either way it goes, those links are in the show notes. And for a limited time, Kat and I have released our entire Patreon catalog entirely free. Take advantage of it.
And as always, William and I want to thank you for listening.
From day one or now, thank you.
Join the Facebook group at Info on the Go
Over there, you can get to know us.
or ask us a question.
But whatever you're doing, make sure you hit that follow button wherever you get this podcast.
Send us some fan mail using the link in the show notes or leave a review.
Leaving that review really does help others find us, but you can email Kat or myself directly at
infoonthegopodcast@gmail.com.
and all of this is in the show notes. Till next time.
Stay curious.
Hey, listen up. All of my workforce friends out there, whether you're ranchers, farmers, or you just need a pair of good leather gloves, look no further than Bare Knuckles. The best leather gloves ever made, featuring a patent design crafted for natural curve of the fingers. These gloves deliver a perfect fit, superior protection, and all-day comfort. Made from premium leather, right now get an exclusive 15% off, and you can find that at buybareknuckles.com, but make sure you use our code INFOGO at checkout. You can find that link in the show notes. Upgrade your hands, and remember, every purchase, well, it supports the show, so thank you.
If you love unforgettable treats, you've got to try Molly B's gourmet cookies. These aren't your average cookies. Molly B's brings bold, artisan crafted cookies straight to your pantry. We're talking chocolate, cherry, and amaretto and be cordial. Earl Grey, lavender, white chocolate, and lemon glaze in the tea. Even maple, bacon, whiskey, and white chocolate in the Boss Man. Founded by a single mom from Alaska, Molly Bees has become a national sensation. You get 10% off any product using our code INFOGO at mollybees.com. Find the link in the show notes.